All right, so today we're diving into something, I guess you could call it a little controversial, a little counterintuitive.
Oh, sounds right up our alley.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the coddling of the American mind.
Ah, leaking on off in hate, right.
Right, and this idea that negative comments, like genuinely negative comments, could actually be good for us mentally.
I can see why you'd call that controversial.
Because, like, isn't the whole point of life to avoid the negative stuff, to seek comfort? That's what I always thought.
Yeah, it's our natural instinct, right? To avoid pain, to avoid things that make us feel bad.
Exactly. But that's where these authors, these guys, they're saying, well, what if that instinct is actually making us weaker?
Hmm, interesting. So, shielding ourselves from all discomfort is actually counterproductive.
Yeah, like if you think about it, it makes sense. It's um like exercise. If you
Yeah.
don't ever stress your muscles, they can't get stronger.
Oh, I see. So it's like treating our mental resilience like a muscle.
Right. And the more we expose it to, I guess, criticism in this case, the stronger it gets. So when we get negative feedback, it doesn't hit us so hard.
That's a good analogy. But just to clarify, the authors aren't saying we should actively go looking for people to put us down.
No, no, of course not. It's more about reframing how we view discomfort, right?
Absolutely. And it's important to be able to distinguish between constructive criticism, which can be valuable for growth, and just plain personal attacks, which are never okay.
Makes sense.
Hmm.
So how does this coddling actually play out in the real world? Like, what are some examples of this overprotection from discomfort?
Well, they give a lot of examples. Like some parents who prevent their kids from ever failing. Like they might not let them play a sport or an instrument if they're not naturally gifted, or they step in to solve all their
So the
problems.
kids never learn to deal with setbacks on their own.
Right. And that can extend beyond childhood, too. Like avoiding difficult conversations at work or surrounding yourself only with people who agree with you.
Oh, so like echo chambers, you mean?
Exactly. It's all about staying in that comfort zone, even if it means limiting our growth.
But by doing that, by avoiding discomfort, aren't we kind of stunting ourselves in a way?
Yeah, I think that's what the authors are getting at. If we never learn to cope with negativity or challenges, then when we inevitably face them in the real world, we're just not equipped to handle it.
There's that story in the book, right? About the college student who had a total meltdown after getting a bad grade, his first one ever.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. That's a powerful example. It shows just how unprepared you can be for setbacks if you've never had to deal with them before. And this kid wasn't, like, incapable. He just didn't have the tools.
It's almost like it gave him a distorted view of himself. He thought he could do no wrong because he'd never been allowed to.
Right. And that kind of fragility, it's not just an individual problem. They argue it's becoming a societal problem.
But now that you mention it, I can see how this whole coddling thing ties into, well, a lot of the issues we're seeing today. Like, if we're always shielding ourselves from opposing viewpoints,
Yeah, exactly. Like political polarization, we end up in these echo chambers where we're never challenged, never forced to confront different perspectives.
which honestly is a little scary when you think about it.
It is. It means we stop thinking critically and become less open to new ideas, and that's not how progress happens.
So it's not about going out and picking fights, but being willing to, like, step outside that comfort zone and actually listen to what other people have to say, even if it makes us uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
It's interesting, though, I'm thinking back to my own childhood, and, well, I definitely remember some overprotective moments.
I think most of us probably can, if we're being honest.
Yeah. But the thing is, like we're saying, it's not just about our personal experiences, it's about the bigger picture.
Exactly. And that's what makes this book so thought-provoking. It challenges us to rethink our relationship with discomfort, both individually and as a society.
This whole conversation has really given me a lot to think about.
Me too. It's a lot to unpack.
So to sum it all up, it sounds like discomfort in the right doses can actually be beneficial. It helps us build resilience, develop coping mechanisms, and, well, just become more well-rounded individuals.
That's a good way to put it. And I think that's a key takeaway here. Discomfort isn't always the enemy. It can actually be a catalyst for growth.
Right. So maybe the question we should all be asking ourselves is, how can we embrace discomfort in a healthy way? How can we use it as a tool for personal development without letting it completely overwhelm us?
That's a great question. And I think it's one that each of us needs to answer for ourselves.
And on that note, I think we'll leave it there for today. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been enlightening, to say the least.
It really has. Thanks for having me.